I don't know about you, but I'm tired. Really deeply bone weary, tired. This pandemic has been a month now that we've been aware of it. We've been housebound for more than 3 weeks, I guess. I've lost count. Other people counting say it's been that long. And I just it's the tired that's bone weary deep down, that 8 hours of sleep a couple of nights in a row was not going to cure. And I've got great empathy for the disciples who were with Jesus that night on Gethsemane, where he took Peter and James and John with him, and he said, "Stay awake. I want my friends with me. I want to spend time with you." And then, of course, he goes off someplace else, and the disciples have to wait, and they can't stay awake, and they fall asleep. And 3 times Jesus comes back and says, "Come on, wake up. I asked you to stay with me." And they fall asleep. And you're left with a sense that the disciples don't quite get what the night means. This is the night of Jesus' last freedom. This is the last time he will be able to walk around with his friends, spend time with them, pray and meditate before all of it goes pear-shaped, before Judas shows up, before the Roman soldiers are showing up. It's the last time. And prior to that, Jesus shared a last meal with his friends. And we have a lot of artwork that talks about what the Last Supper could have looked like. We've got entire books based on conspiracy theories about what the Last Supper can look like. And it wasn't just 12 men with Jesus at a long table. That's just a painting. It was Jesus' followers, the ones, his disciples, his closest group of people, the men and women who had been with him right from the beginning were there, celebrating with him the feast of Passover. Now, our Jewish siblings last night began Passover, and the modern Seder that they're celebrating is not what Jesus would have been part of. The celebration that Jesus would have known 2,000 years ago was quite different. So, about 20 years ago, there's a fad going through Christian churches where they would do a version of the Seder, and it kind of annoyed our Jewish siblings because their festival is very, very powerful and very special to themselves, and it wouldn't have been anything Jesus would have recognized anyway, so please stop doing it. Now, most churches have kind of figured that out and have moved on. But a way to make this night powerful has always been part of the Christian psyche. Jesus met with his friends. They shared a last meal, and a meal, it is the most intimate thing you can do with a folk. Save sex, of course. But sharing food together is something that we in this time are not allowed to do. We can't spend time with our family. We can't sit down with friends. We can't break bread anywhere except online. And with those in our immediate family that we live with all the time. We are separated in a way this year that is far transcending any of the metaphoric separation that the early Christians would have known, that Christians before us would have known, that we even knew last year. And I think that adds to the potency of this Maundy, Thursday. I think it certainly adds to the exhaustion of this Thursday. Who we celebrate with matters. We want to be this night with our friends. We want to be with the ones that matter. Because on the horizon, not very long from now, the darkest time of our year comes together. Jesus broke bread with his friends. He lifted the bread. He looked around the table, lifted the thing that was common to even the poorest household, lifted the bread and said, "This is my body. It's going to be broken." Our ritual has us taking the bread, breaking it in two, and sharing it amongst each other, whether we pass it to people, whether we break off little bits, whether they break off little bits. Our ritual shows us a body broken and shared in memory of Jesus, who would break his body and the love that he shared with everybody who followed him, everybody who had not yet heard about him. All of humanity got to share in this love. And then he took the cup and he said, "This is my blood. It'll be spilled out for everybody to wash away their sins." Now, at this time in history, the concept of sacrifice was quite highly developed, but it was a ongoing, continuous ritual. And the Hebrew people came to the temple to offer these sacrifices to forgive their sins for a year, maybe even shorter time. Jesus poured out the wine, said this is his blood to sacrifice for sins, to forgive sins for all time. There was not need of a do-over. There wasn't any need to repent or go through any other rituals. And we're not told in Matthew to do the cup and the bread in memory of Jesus. That comes later in Christian writing and in Christian history. Now, undoubtedly, while Matthew was writing the gospel, people were celebrating that. We know that from written evidence. But Jesus gave himself. And all he asked of his disciples, after he told them they would betray him, they would deny him, they would abandon him, all he asked is, stay with me. Remain here with me. Watch and pray. And the disciples just couldn't do it. This is a night for us to relate greatly to Peter, John, James, Judas, Mary, Bartholomew, all of the followers who were with Jesus. At the end of the day, none of them could walk with Jesus the last steps he made. All they could do was watch and pray. So I invite you this day, this night, to spend time with your prayers, your meditation. Feel the weight of this day. This is not a day we glib through as we rush through for Easter morning. Feel Maundy, Thursday. Feel the change that is happening around us. Feel the disappointment and the sadness at not being with your friends and family. Be tired and pray. Try to imagine yourself with the disciples that night so very, very long ago. We're about to begin the 4 longest days of our church year. The light might be at the end of the tunnel, but we're not there yet. So please take this time and be tired.